Yo show.
What's up? It's Michael Yo. Thank you so much for tuning in to the podcast. You know how it works. I release the podcast at a later date, but you get to see the live version of the podcast on YouTube and Facebook Live. I do it every single time. Thank you so much for all the love. The podcast is really taking off. You guys are coming through. A couple weeks ago, I released a podcast with my parents, and it's incredible. My parents have blown up where so many people have sent me questions about my parents that now I have to do another podcast with them to answer all these questions. So, like I said, everything's going great. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give it 5 stars. You know what to do. And as always, go to michaelyo.com. You can check out my special Blasian for free, but I got to bring her in right now. I absolutely love her. You know her from the Chatty Broads. Jess, how are you?
Hi. Oh, Michael, it makes my heart so happy to see you.
It makes my heart so happy to see you.
Your face. I know we've talked a couple times over the phone and everything since, you were in the
Corona thing.
everything, just the casual Corona thing. But no, it's so nice to see you.
It's good to see you too. Now, Chatty Broad's a huge podcast. You guys are blowing up. But how are you dealing, like both of you, dealing with the coronavirus?
So we're on different pages. So my co-host Becca, she is about to give birth in 10 days, I think.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, typically the situation would be like very frightening for a lot of people, but this girl had a home birth planned already. So she was like, I'm cruising. Like, I already have my home birth planned. I'm not worried about it. So since everything like in quarantine started, she's a little bit like, I'm okay at home. I don't have FOMO because I know no one's out and I feel very pregnant. So she's doing good.
There's nothing really going on right now. People are starting to get back on the streets. People are starting to get back out there slowly. But like I tell everybody, man, you got to be cautious. It can happen to anyone. But I also understand people got to get to work. They got to make money. And there's only a certain amount of time America, and I'm talking about Americans and probably all over the country, will be like, okay, we're going to stay in. We're going to give you a chance. And if you guys don't get it right, we got to take our chances and go out and make money and get back to normal.
So I've been seeing some comedians are getting back on the road. Like, for you, what would you think time-wise until you're feeling comfortable to do that?
The 3rd and 4th week of August. I've already got booked on dates, so I'm going. Oh, I already got booked.
God. Congratulations.
I have to go. It's part of me. I love, like you hear when people say stand-up comedy, when comics go, I love it. I absolutely love it. I miss it. Like, I love my wife. I love my kids, but a part of me is missing not doing stand-up.
Of course.
And me and my wife had one of those talks where I went through a lot through Corona, but she goes, are you going to tour right away? Or are you going to wait till next year? And I was like, I got to get on the road as soon as possible. As soon as my doctor clears me, which he already has, I got to, because that's part of me. That's what I do. That's what I love. And without that, I'm like incomplete. I'm so incomplete without stand-up comedy.
I mean, it makes sense, though. You all as comics, I mean, are out every single night, like grinding. And when that comes to a halt suddenly, I think typically like 9 to 5, you're still able to come home and like there's a schedule. But with you comedians, it's like 7 days a week. Just
it is. But with COVID, I learned a lot because my immune system was down. I've talked to my doctor several times. I was always the guy that would perform till because Saturday night you perform, you get back to the hotel around 1, and I always would take the first flight out at like 5:30 or 6, and then I get home and I'm exhausted. So I was talking to Rogan on this podcast. It's like, I'm changing that now. I'm, because I always want to get back to my family, but I also need to take care of myself. So instead of like only getting 4 hours of sleep, changing that flight to a noon flight, a 1 flight, sleeping in a little bit, eating breakfast, a good breakfast, and then going to the airport,
Yeah, taking some quality care of yourself for sure.
That's what it's about. So have you been nervous through the whole COVID process?
Not until you got it.
That's the thing. I think
big time.
I think I was the person like, what? What's interesting? After I put out that video about it, so many people said they didn't take it seriously till they saw that video.
Yeah, I was so grateful for it because listen, your girl's a rule follower. I wasn't trying to like fight. And like, when they said, stay home, I'm like, all right, not happy about it, but understand. But I still felt really skeptical. And I was just thinking, of course, I'm going to do it. I want to protect people around me who are autoimmune compromised, people who are older and more susceptible. But also, all of a sudden, when you're young, you're healthy, a friend of mine, and not only do you get it, you are like about to die.
Yeah,
Are
it was
you kidding
crazy.
me? It was one of those things where it was like, all right, I'm staying home. I am listening to this happily. I need to take care of those around me and all that. And I wouldn't say I was scared. It was just, all right, this is like a serious lockdown. And
Yeah.
but then listen though, your video, it started to get me real heated because what started to happen is my friends who before were doing some like, some of the conspiracy theory chirping in my ear, I would
Uh-huh.
just kind of be like, oh, whatever, whatever. And now when a friend of mine got it so seriously, uh-oh.
Oh
I
yeah,
was
you get mad about it.
I was getting really angry.
Like, I don't understand these people. Look, I understand conspiracy theories and why
Sure,
some people believe in them, whatever. But
sure.
you can't say, like, some people are going, oh, 100,000 people never died.
Yeah.
And I'm like, talk to those families that they're like, some say the shootings of schools never happened. It's a conspiracy. It's
That's
like,
the thing. It's like I'm all about, you know what? This is America. We're willing, that we have the opportunity to think what we want and conspiracy theories, I understand some of them, but like you said, when there's things that are being said like this amount of people never died and all that, I was like, okay, I'm getting real
yeah,
heated
I
and I'm
don't,
having some hot conversations with some friends and it was getting a little wild. But
yeah, I don't agree with those kind of conspiracy theories. If you want to talk conspiracy theories, aliens, okay, that's
yes,
fun.
on
Let's
board with that.
conspiracy talk about the government knows there's aliens. There's an agency above the president that the president can't even get into because the president changes every 4 to 8 years, but they have a group that oversees the world. Okay, let's talk that conspiracy
Let's
theory
talk
all day.
about that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about
No,
the Illuminati. Sounds great. But
Illuminati, fine. It hurts no one that we know of.
yes.
you know. Well, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
I want to know about, what do you believe? Do you believe there's an agency? Because I got into this conversation with Rogan, that
Okay.
there's an agency above our government that very few know about, but that kind of run the world.
Michael, I'm not gonna say that I don't believe it. um, I wouldn't listen. There's so much shit that's going on behind the scenes constantly, and I think that I have some sort of grasp on anything involving the government or history or anything. And then every day I'm finding out something else. That the idea of a bunch of people who are, the world superpowers because of monetary, like, it wouldn't surprise me. But this is my thing. If that's the case, what am I gonna do about it?
Nothing.
Nothing. I just have to keep living my life. Like I can't go toe to toe with Bill Gates. I don't have his power. I
Yeah,
can't do
exactly.
anything about it. So it's one of those things that's fun to talk about. But I have, what's so funny is before I hopped on the podcast with you, I was like on a phone call arguing with a friend who's like so deep in that and was like, no, you have to believe this. And I was just like, all your videos, it's great. I just don't know what I'm supposed to do with them. Like, are we
Yeah.
gonna overthrow? I don't understand.
I
Maybe I'm
never thought
small
about
minded, but I don't
I
know.
never thought about that point. Like, even if there was, okay, great. So what am
Yeah.
I supposed to do about it? What
Like,
am I gonna do?
if I'm Elon Musk and I have this thought, okay, different story. But I'm Jess Ambrose. I did so in school, math not so great. I mean, what am I supposed to do? I have a podcast where I talk about The Bachelor. I'm not going to be overthrowing the government. Like, it's just not the case.
So what do you think about aliens then?
Oh, I've always believed in aliens, but that's just more because I like the idea of believing in aliens.
What type of aliens do you believe in though? Like, there's ones that come to Earth, that check it out, that take some people up for a little bit, bring them back down, that put rings in abandoned fields. Are you that alien believer, or are you the alien believer? It's like, look, it would be stupid for me to say there's no other life form in the universe.
That's the second part, but I do
Yeah.
like to imagine that Did you ever see the movie Arrival?
Wait, tell me it. I think I have.
So it's when who is it? Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner, and the aliens land in like pods. I don't want to give it away because what a movie.
Oh, yes, I have seen it. I have seen it.
It's one of those movies that I heard everyone was like, "Oh my god, it's incredible," and I just never watched it. And since lockdown, I've been watching more movies at nighttime. And I watched this movie, and when a movie messes you up for like a week afterwards, it was one of those movies where for 3 days I was just like in a haze because it just
Yeah.
really rocked me. And it's weird because it's a movie about aliens, but I like to picture the aliens like that, just
See,
like
you're one of those people that would be the first to get blown up because you would be you would be on top of a building with a sign, "Welcome aliens to the Earth,"
oh,
and
it'd
then
be like
boom.
beam me up. No, it'd be like I'd want to just like touch hands with the aliens and be like, let's just come together in some beautiful unit, and then I would die.
Okay, this looks like a guy that might be he says humans to aliens are what ants are to humans.
Okay, that would make sense to me. Or I like the idea of
I
that.
like the idea. I understand what he's saying. I
Yeah.
totally understand. And I agree. That's why, I'm getting all these comments in. What is this? Damn, hey, Michael, what's good? Nothing, Ramon. Just doing a podcast. If you're
Bye,
watching on
Ramon.
Facebook and YouTube, you can join the conversation. I accidentally put you in the conversation, Ramon. But what's up? I hope all is well. I'll read your comment on the air and put it up there live on Facebook and YouTube, and then the podcast come out.
Wow,
But
that is risky business, Michael. You just let people pop up and say anything? Do you ever get
well,
anything
I mean, I
crazy?
can. Like, if somebody writes something right now, I can put it up. So if they, like, for instance, they may have an argument that says
Right.
the aliens are alive, and they send me an article, and I'll open it up live during the podcast. So
No, I
it's
love
very
it.
interactive.
I love
Yeah,
it.
it's
You're living
cool.
on the edge. I appreciate
I
that.
am living. You know me. After I beat Corona, man, only one life to live. I'm gonna live it on the edge.
Oh, absolutely. As soon as this quarantine's over, you're just gonna see Michael like doing every sort of, like,
Skydiving, cliff
bungee
diving.
jumping. Like, okay, let's relax a little bit.
No, I'm a chicken compared to that stuff. Like, I don't
Really?
do skydiving.
You've never
No,
been skydiving before?
I will never do anything that endangers my life on purpose.
What about like crazy roller coasters? Are
Oh
you
yeah,
okay
but
with that?
I mean, they do endanger your life, but I mean, how many roller coasters crash a year? Maybe let's say 10. And how many rides happen in a year? I mean, it's just those odds are very low. But jumping out of a plane, you will not survive that. Where a roller coaster, if there's a malfunction, unless it flies off the track, you're gonna pretty much survive. So I'm gonna take those odds.
Yeah, I think I feel similarly where I will put my life in anyone's hands who I believe knows what they're doing, but when it's up to my own like expertise, I'm out. So whenever it comes to extreme sports, when I'm the one in control, no, no, no. But I'll skydive on someone else's like
You
on
will
their
skydive.
stomach. Yeah, I'll do like the little
Mm-mm.
kangaroo pouch thing. I've done
No.
it before. I've gone skydiving a couple times.
And what did that do for you?
Um it's just fun to say it. It's a
Yeah.
fun thing to pull out at parties. No, the adrenaline rush was amazing. I was more scared though after going up in the plane, jumping out didn't freak me out so much. It was the parachute down where all of a sudden you're slow and you're so high and then all of a sudden you realize how high you are. And I was like, don't like this part so much. Not for me.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah,
for
I
me.
don't like any of it. That's why I would never do it.
No, no.
And hey, just a bit of advice. You can lie at parties and say you still skydived, and they'll
I
believe
love
you.
that. I like
Yeah.
I'll throw out maybe at the next party that I did some sort of cage diving with sharks because I would like to do that, but haven't. Freaked out by that.
No, I will not.
I stopped doing it once I had my daughter. Beforehand, I was like, okay, I was skydiving and doing all that. Now I feel a little more concerned about.
Can I tell you what's funny is I was at Disney and I love what's that roller coaster? Incredibles. Have you rode the Incredible roller coaster?
No, was it another one? Was it like California Screamin' before? Did they change
It
it?
might have been it. I don't know. When my son was born, we started going to Disney. So I've only been going
Okay.
for 3 years, but I love this roller coaster. And then one day it wasn't working. And then they fixed it while we were still at Disney. And my wife goes, "You really want to go on that and risk your life? You have a family now." And I was like, that is kind of childish. Me getting on a roller coaster.
It feels a little
You're
I
like,
mean,
why am I
roller
risking
coaster, I
my
think you're
life?
fine. You're fine, but yeah, maybe not the cage diving with the sharks or the
No,
bungee jumping so much.
no, I am not going to swim. Like when people swim with sharks, have you seen the people without the cages? That
Oh,
just no.
that's some next level business. That's some I was actually once I was snorkeling in Hawaii and I was pretty young. I was maybe like 10 or 11. So my parents are floating around and I'm just doing my thing and all of a sudden a shark comes into my view and it was I forget what type it was. It was a harmless shark. But the amount of extreme horror that I felt, I will never forget.
And
I
you can't run away. Like you're in
no.
their
Also,
territory.
why do people tell you to punch a shark in the nose? Like I would the amount of wherewithal that it would take for me to focus and punch a shark in the nose, like I'm panicking. If I have a panic attack off land, I can barely aim at anything, let alone in the water. I'm supposed to have direct aim. No. There's no
No,
way.
it's the same. Yeah, punch a shark in the nose. No,
It's not gonna
I
happen.
wouldn't. No, not at all. Not at all. So during the quarantine, since you've been locked up at your house like everybody else, what is
Yeah.
something you learned about your partner that you didn't know before? Because you're spending way more time with your partner.
That we hate each other.
Yeah.
No, it's you know what? I will say that I have both realized how much we value our space. And I didn't realize until we were in quarantine that we spend a lot of time like in our home apart, like not interacting. And
Wow.
we're both very much, I mean, we've been together for a really long time.
What's a long
Um,
time?
I mean, for my age, I'm 31. We've been together for 14 years with like a year in the middle, give or take.
Wait a minute. Since you were
Yeah.
17?
Yeah, we started dating in high school and then we broke up for like a year and a half and then we got back together.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
sweet though.
It's wonderful. And he's like, we've been just partners for forever, but we both are very like we're introvert, we need our space. And so when my other friends would be like, "Oh my god, we talk all day and we text all day." And I'm like, we've never really done that. We kind of have our space, and then when we sit down for dinner, we have the best conversations. And we're apart a lot. So now with quarantine, because the little ones at home were together all the time, and I'm like, my God, I love you so much. We both just need our space. So
Well,
sometimes, we just watch different things in different rooms.
do you do you think like when couples meet today though, say like me and my wife, we've been married 4 years, but we've been together 6. But
Yeah,
we kind of met through where you kind of text each other, you're kind of more interactive. You met before there was even
I know.
like
There wasn't even
the
internet
whole text.
practically.
Yeah, there wasn't like you met before the iPhone, basically.
Oh, yeah, no, I had a Razor flip phone when
Oh,
we
the
were
flip phone.
dating. Oh, yeah, I had my Razor for sure. I think that I'm sure that plays a huge part in it. Um, because yeah, by the time that we had been together for a long time, that's all of a sudden when texting is like coming about. But we're both just kind of wired that way. We both talk a lot when we're around other people, but we like to spend a lot of time not talking by ourselves.
I'm the
So,
same way.
are you
I'm the
really?
exact. Oh my goodness! Like I hate people, but I'm great in a room. You know what I
I
mean? Does that
can
make
work
any
the
sense?
hell out of a room, but I can't stand anybody in it.
No, 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 no. Like I
No, I
just
know what
don't.
you mean.
I
No,
don't like to know a lot of random people.
no.
Like if I know you, like it's special. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not a social butterfly. I have friends that they know everybody in town. If they go out, they're like a celebrity. You know?
You seem like such a social butterfly to me that is so surprising.
No, because I don't like to be. I don't want to say I hate people. I don't like to be around a lot of people at once.
Yeah. No, I
You know what I
understand.
mean?
Yeah.
I can interview anyone. I can hold a conversation. I can work a room like nobody's business.
Oh, yeah.
But when I'm home, it's like I talk to my wife, but it's not. It's this feeling. It's a way different feeling where it's like a lot to go out and really. I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's just I just don't like crowds of people. You know?
Yeah. No, I completely get that. I'm very introverted, so I spend a lot of time needing to like just have my alone time, but I have a few very close friendships, and I like to have like very intimate conversations with those people. But then when I do go out, I love to be surface level, like nobody's business. It's like fun,
Yeah.
top level conversations. The idea of going into a room full of people and like having really intimate conversations with a lot of them sounds really
No,
exhausting.
it's very surface. It's like, how are you? What you been up to? Oh, that's
Yeah, just
great.
like,
Oh, that's so
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
The one thing I hate about LA though, when you have those surface conversations, is I hate when people always look past you and look at the door to see who's walking in. That's
Oh,
the
oh
worst
my
thing in LA.
gosh. Oh yeah, you mean the thing that makes you feel so special?
Yeah, they're like,
You're like trying to have a conversation. They're just like the whole time. Oh
no,
yeah,
yeah. They're like,
yeah,
uh-huh,
yeah,
uh-huh,
yeah,
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 uh-huh,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I hate those people. Like
I'm like,
I
just
made
tell me. I like when someone shoots straight. I like when they're like, "Hey, listen, here's the deal. I'm kind of looking around for someone else. Great to see you. Gotta go. Just hurt my feelings. I like to have my feelings hurt. If you're being honest,
no, you like honesty.
that's
That's what I
true.
would love too. It's like, hey, I can't talk right now. I got to find somebody, but if I have the chance, I'm gonna come back. Fine, do that
Yeah,
all day.
yeah.
You know what I mean? But don't no. And I'm not. I guess another thing is I'm not into fake conversations. Like my wife is so amazing at fake conversations. Like she is. Oh, like honestly, me and my wife are so complete opposites. Where I told her in our vows, like literally, she is everything I'm not. Because like she really likes everybody. You
Yeah.
know, I have trust issues with people. I need to know. Like she's like trust first and then find. I'm like, no, no, no.
You're
That's
like,
why we
no,
balance it. No, 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 no,
no,
no.
no, no.
That's why we balance each other so well. You know,
Yeah.
like she's the one that writes all the cards to people. I would never write a
Oh.
card
Oh, I need
ever.
her. I'd like to marry her. I need to get better at that. I need a partner who will do that.
Yeah. You can
I feel
marry
like
her too.
I feel like I'm supposed to do that as, as the lady. A lot of times it's like, okay, we tend to get the gifts and write the cards. We cook. I am horrible at all those things.
You're a terrible
And
cook.
oh, I don't think terrible. I can't cook. Like it's not even like a terrible issue. It's like, oh, I have no capabilities of doing it.
Well, my
And
wife
so
has actually started to try because she enjoys it, but I cook a lot too. I'm not a big cooker. It's not like I'm cooking except I make breakfast.
you're not like top chef, but like you
No,
do it.
not at all. No, I'm making eggs, putting peanut butter on toast and avocado. There we go. Let's go.
That sounds much better than any breakfast that I would ever make, Michael.
Do
So,
you have a go-to dish you make?
I mean, I don't know if you understand what I say when I'm saying I don't cook.
Oh, okay. So not at all.
No,
Not
no.
at all.
No,
You're like my
I
go-to
don't.
dish is cereal. I
My
make
go-to dish
cereal.
is takeout. A lot of
Okay.
takeout. No, I mean, I snack like crazy. So I literally will, like take out some cheese, an apple, and brie cheese. I'll take out like that. I open an avocado and I just eat a plain
I do
avocado.
that too.
It's delicious, but it's terrible because I have no experience. Now, luckily, my husband, he's gotten really good at cooking. So now, since especially in the past couple months, every day he's making dishes. It's fantastic.
My friend Eric Rivera, when it's at Michael's line, he's about to drop a cooking show next week in your kitchen. Yeah,
I
Eric
mean,
Rivera.
the people want to see it. Come on.
No, I would be great. Like I could. Here's the thing. In one huge reality show producer I was talking to said it doesn't like people get caught up in reality shows, but it's about the cast more than the show.
Oh,
Like
for
for
sure.
instance, the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills or all these shows, you could put them in a restaurant and it would still be a great show.
It's
So it's
still
about the
fantastic.
cast.
Mhm.
So if I learn how to cook, oh, I could have I believe I could have a cooking show.
Oh
You
yeah, I
know?
think it'd be great. I mean, but even if you don't learn how to cook, just
I could
because
still
your
have a great cooking.
just because your dishes are trash doesn't mean that it's not a great show.
We'll call it
It's still
trash
charming.
cooking. Trash. That'll be the name of the cooking show. Just trash, garbage. We'll call it basura, just in Spanish. Basura, garbage that I make.
I mean, I'm in. I'm in. If you are gonna have any sort of guests to help create these trash dishes, I will throw random ingredients on top of
We will crush it. We will
We'll
crush it.
crush it. We'll crush it. We'll just make
Now,
that can be part of the show is you bring people in just like how Gordon Ramsay has his show and the guests come and they eat and you watch them cook live. We have to feed people coming and sitting in our restaurant and it's just horrendous and they have to finish the dishes. That's just kind of part of the deal.
And we get all the Yelp reviews that are horrible.
Yes.
I like it.
People would start coming to the restaurant because they're like, apparently this is so bad. It's kind of trendy.
It's so bad, it's good. That'll be on the restaurant. It's so bad, it's good. The show is trashed. The restaurant, it's called whatever, but the slogan, it's so bad, it's good. And it's trendy to go.
No, we can't start getting lazy and not adding ingredients to this and just like throw on a piece of string cheese on a plate. That I feel like I could start getting lazy. I still gotta.
We actually cook. We actually try to cook on this show.
We try to actually follow in some instructions, some recipes. See, I don't even know that they're called recipes, Michael. I called them instructions before.
Instructions.
I don't even know that when you're referring to food, it's called a recipe.
It'll be me versus you, and the worst dish wins.
I'm gonna kick your ass. I can't wait for this.
I don't know. I think we got a show.
I think we do too.
I've known you a couple years, and I do notice that you have a lot of tattoos. I don't have a tattoo. How many tattoos do you have?
I mean, I'm going to like make a guess because I have a lot of really like little ones. I think
it's still a tattoo.
Yeah, I think the last time I counted it was like 22.
22?
Yeah, 22.
Okay, and what was your first one you ever got?
This is fun. The first one I ever got was this peacock feather. Well, is it in camera?
There it is.
And the only way that I could get it, because I was still living at home, I had just turned 18, and I got this tattoo, and my parents said, "All right, well, you can get it, but it has to have meaning behind it." And I was like, "I just want this peacock feather." Well, turns out I had to put a Bible verse attached to it to allow them. So I have a Bible verse attached to it, and I don't know what the verse says. I'm a bad person.
Well, you don't even know what you have a scripture on your leg, and you don't know what it says? I don't
even know what the verse says because it was legitimately me being like, "Okay, mom and dad, actually, I'd like to attach. This has some meaning to me." And at the time, I connected them somehow, but now, as like a 31-year-old, I don't remember what it says.
What did the peacock mean?
It was something like how, I was trying to be super like, oh my gosh, lots of meaning. It was something about, I just wanted a peacock feather and I created meaning around it. I was like, well, peacocks, they're the most beautiful birds, but they can't really fly very well. I mean, they can kind of get off the ground a little bit. So I'm like, it's not like the outer beauty is not the purpose. The irony is that I'm getting a tattoo to in my opinion, make my outer body more beautiful. So
it's not about the outer beauty.
It's not about the outer beauty. It's about what's inside. Yeah, I mean, whatever. It was just some nonsense 18-year-old.
Yeah, because what you just said made no sense at all.
It makes no sense. And sometimes when people ask me about my first tattoo and that's the story, I'm like, I don't get it, and I don't expect you to get it either.
Okay, what about your worst tattoo? That had no meaning or that you regret the most?
Honestly, I would say that it's definitely the peacock feather.
Oh, okay.
But it's the one that's the worst done, and I don't understand what it means. And if it wouldn't have the ridiculous symbolism to me behind it of my like 18-year-old stupid self, I would get it removed.
Okay, what about the coolest tattoo?
I think my favorite one is it's on my neck.
I'll do a what? Oh yeah, okay.
And it says that's my favorite one. It says "Burn Bright, Baby." And I got it for my daughter. My daughter's name is Ember. So,
yeah, that's sweet.
Thanks. Yeah.
Which one hurt the most?
Oh, probably. Oh well, I would say the top of my hands and fingers are the most uncomfortable because I have like a bunch on my hands and my fingers.
Yeah.
And those sting, but the ones on the side of my hand, I don't do well with needles.
What? That makes no sense.
I know. I hate needles, but I like tattoos and I don't do well with needles. So every time I go in and get a tattoo, I have to like be in a position I've learned where I'm like, I could faint at any moment because I have a high pain tolerance, but it's the thought of a needle that just freaks me out. So in these specific spots where like the side of my hand, like the tattoos on the side of my hand, they made me pass out both times. So I don't know why those spots are like trigger points where I just got like so lightheaded. But ones on like my ribs and stuff, I know that those are supposed to hurt, but those ones didn't bother me as much.
Wow. I don't have
I've
one tattoo yet.
Here's my thing. I love when people have like a bunch or none. Like
Yeah.
I love like I mean, once I started at 18 and then it's like, all right, well I guess I just got to keep going and I like them. But if I wouldn't have any right now, I wouldn't get one.
I did think of a cool idea if I ever were to get a tattoo, because my wife's name
Yeah.
is Claire, my son's name is Oliver, my daughter's name is Elise, but I would go CEO, Claire, Elise, Oliver for our
That's
family.
cute. That's
So
cute.
it could be
But
cool.
something like that, then if you're gonna get one, especially if it's then your first or one and only to have something with your family. I don't have every tattoo for the most part on my body has some sort of meaning. There's like one or
Mhm.
two that are just kind of like whatever. But I like tattoos that have meaning behind them.
I can't stand the people that get one tattoo and they put it like under their foot. Have you seen those people? Or under their toe? It's like,
Just like
why?
or the ones like on the lip, on the inside of the lip. Oh, that
Makes
one's
no
my favorite.
sense.
Did you ever have any piercings or anything? Like did you
I
ever
did.
like
My
did
wife
you?
still makes fun of me. I had 2 hoops back in, it's like when Michael Jordan did it, and but my but
Bring it back.
but
Bring
my
it back.
my holes never filled in, so my wife always tries to stick stuff in them.
Please do the
Hoop earrings.
mustache with the hoop earrings, please.
A lot of people said I look like Lionel Richie with the stash and fro.
You look great with the stash and fro, and you add those 2 hoops on, that's a look. That's a good look.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. So one thing I wanted to talk to you about, because you're
Yeah.
very aggressive on Instagram about it, and I love it, but you're more woke than I am. Black Lives Matter. I mean, everything you post is about, and I'm proud of you. I'm happy that you do it. But what made you want to take it on so strong?
Um, you know, a lot of it has to do with the fact that I spent, I would say, a mass majority of my life not tapping into it at all. And I think part of that had to do with my upbringing and like where I was raised and how I was raised.
Where were
But
you raised?
I was in Orange County, like
Okay.
South Orange County, went to, it was my community. There was, I, everyone was white. Every single person at my school was white. I remember there was one black boy at my school who was there for a year. Other than that, a lot of the kids came from like very affluent families, would get their Mercedes Benz when they turned 16, type of upbringing. And um that was what I was around all the time. And everyone, was conservative. And I had a lot of passion growing up for justice. But the irony is that, like, I really knew nothing. And I only allowed myself to see justice as far as, like, what was comfortable to me. And then a few years ago, I started, especially like once I moved to Los Angeles and I was around a more diverse friend group. Probably, that started in my early 20s once I left Orange County, but specifically in the past few years where I started to have conversations and I realized um how in the wrong I was about a lot. And that really hit home for me. And it took, there was many months of me like kind of kicking and screaming, being like, no, I'm a good person. I worked for what I got. And just kind of this whole mentality, this whole all lives matter type like BS that I would spout for many years. Um, until a few people spent a lot of time like graciously and listen, they did not owe that to me at all, and I'm very grateful for them. Showing me resources, providing me with resources, having those conversations with me, that I was like, it's not right.
So you're getting this information from friends, but was the George Floyd video the thing that kind of put it over the top, or you were going this way anyway?
it was something that I was going that way anyways. And for the past, like, since we started the podcast with Chatty Broads, it's weird because one episode a week, we talk about Bachelor recap, like reality TV ridiculousness. But the second episode of the week, we always say we're balanced broads. Second episode of the week, we try to talk about, more important things. And my co-host Becca has always been someone who has been doing a lot of anti-racist work, and so I did learn a lot from her, and this was a conversation she was passionate about. So we do have a lot of episodes talking about that. We've also spent a lot of time the past like 2 years really, trying to break down some of the Bachelor franchise and being like, hey, there's no one on these shows. The amount of like Black, Indigenous, people of color, it's just ridiculous. There's no diversity, and so we've talked about that a lot on the show, and so that's
Well,
something
I feel when
yeah.
I watch The Bachelor, the only reason the black people are on there is just to meet a quota. Because you don't feel like it's sad to watch a show and you don't even feel like they have a chance to win, no matter who the Bachelor or Bachelorette is.
Yeah, and well, they were in a lawsuit. That's why I think why they started to put maybe even some people of color on the show. And we actually had a guest on our podcast yesterday, and her name's Taylor Nolan, and she was on The Bachelor many seasons ago, and she's biracial, and she talked about how, like, listen, I'm watching this franchise and I'm talking to other people, especially women who are Black who watch the show, and it's like there's this narrative of only like a certain girl who looks a certain way has like this fairy tale ending. And so there's actually a petition going around right now. It's at Batch Diversity, and they're putting this petition out, and they're going after ABC and being like, hey, this needs to change. And it's gotten thousands and thousands of signatures, so hopefully they'll wake up and we get Mike as the next Bachelor.
Yeah,
That's what we're
I
really
mean, Mike should have been the Bachelor. He was a great choice, but I understand, like, you know, like when little children of color watch The Bachelor because their parents watch it,
Yeah.
and they see that only a blonde-haired girl gets the fairy tale ending, and you're growing up watching that, you're like, well, I guess I can't get that ending. And I know on the surface level, a lot of people be like, yo, come on, man, that's dumb. But no, when you're a kid, you're very influenced by what you see.
It's all about,
Especially you're very influenced by the people that look like you. How many times have you heard a kid go, oh my God, you look like me. We have the same story. I look up to you. So just think a kid watching this show and say they're an African American girl, a Black girl watching the show. There's 4 Black girls on the show. By round 3, they're all cut.
yeah.
I guess we don't deserve
Well, and
the great
messaging,
ending.
it's that's what it's all about, right? And it starts so young. And I know, for example, like especially in the past few years, a whole wave of body positivity has been so huge, and I'm so for that. But they use that messaging like, hey, body positivity. We, especially as a lot of women, we're always seeing a certain type of body, and that gets ingrained in our heads, and it's not good for us. And it's the same way with diversity in the media. If you're only seeing these white women get these fairy tale endings, these young people are, that's going to be messaging for them for sure.
I'm not going to out the person that said it because I'm not that type of guy, but a very
Say their
influential
name.
but a very influential person that's been with the show said, this was years ago, maybe 10 years ago or 8 years, whenever the show was like at its biggest point, said that they would never put on a Black Bachelor because it wouldn't rate. And 10 years ago, 8 years ago, is kind of like, oh, that's messed up. But if that show still has that mentality today, I
Well,
think that's a problem. They tried it with what was the Black girl's name?
Rachel Lindsay.
Rachel Lindsay, and it didn't rate as well, correct?
No. Mm-mm. Nope.
But I think sometimes you got to take a hit, especially after you have a franchise. It's not like it rated that much worse, but it did take a hit. But it's kind of like to move.
Oh well.
Oh well. You have 48 other seasons. You can
right, and you have the obligation as a gigantic show, one of the biggest shows in the entire world. Like that's part of like, you have this platform, you got to use it for that, even if the ratings aren't as good. Sorry, it's just part of the deal.
Jason Escobedo writing in, thank you. Diverse thoughts bring diverse actions in any demographic. Bless you. I agree. And I love that the conversation is going. I love what you're doing on your social media. And you're really all about the cause. And
yeah, well, back to what you were asking about George Floyd's murder. That was definitely, we had been talking about that a lot on the podcast for the past few years, but that is what really springboarded my social media presence when I realized, I'm like, listen, why are you not saying anything? Like, you read this, you're getting resources, you're trying to educate yourself. Why don't you bring in your audience? And I don't have a huge audience on social media at all, but I've got the I've got the swipe up link, and that's a gift to be able to
yeah.
have a swipe up, because it's an easy way to give people resources. And I'm like, listen, I feel like this is something that I need to do and I wasn't doing enough of. And so I was like, okay, you need to snap into gear here, and it's something that I believe I need to do, you know?
So what is the backlash you're getting? Because I would imagine with a bachelor audience, like you got one of the biggest podcasts in the world with the bachelor audience. I'm sure people are used to seeing this show from a certain lens.
Yes.
Is there a lot of backlash? Have you seen, since you guys are talking about it and kind of, you're in the conversation now, have you seen backlash, people not listening to the podcast, people sending you evil messages, people going all lives matter? Of course they do. We know that, but that's not what we're talking about right now.
It's been interesting because the numbers haven't gone down. I think people, even if they don't like what's being said, and I think sometimes people tune in, especially when they don't like what's being said, because they're curious.
Yeah.
So the numbers haven't been affected. But as far as the backlash, I mean, because our podcast, when it comes to Bachelor Recaps, we've been talking about this for the past like year and a half. I would say a large majority of our listeners are like of the same mind as we are.
Okay.
But when we first started talking about it about a year and a half, oh my goodness, there was a lot of backlash and
Backlash as in how?
Like hundreds of 1-star ratings about negative reviews about that.
Like the stay in your lane comments. You talk about the Bachelor, stay in your lane type of thing.
For sure. And
you know what's fun?
A lot of like loss, like on our personal social medias, tons of DMs.
You know what's funny to me is those people that say stay in your lane, don't talk about politics, are the same persons that are not in politics either. You're telling me not to talk about it, but you're not in politics either. So, I mean,
my thing is too, I'm like,
it makes no sense.
I'm like, first of all, we own our podcast. We're not part of like, we can say whatever we want. It's our podcast. It's not like we're on some national network and the show is a cooking show and that's what listen. And even then, you speak up for what's right. But it's our podcast. We can talk about whatever we want to talk about. And if you don't want to hear it, then you don't have to tune in. There was a time when for a while that I personally, I would get nervous and I would tiptoe around certain things because I was like, I don't want to offend certain people and I don't want to get the backlash, and getting the DMs and some of the DMs can be really, really vicious and really personal. And I can, I would imagine that you've received similar DMs as well, if not more. And I
don't want to cut you off.
No.
I get what I feel is it's all about educate. There's some people that are just racist, 100% racist. There's nothing you can do about those. But a lot of people's education, they just don't know. They hear about it, but since they've never talked to people it's actually happened to, because my thing is, once you see something on TV, it has to happen a lot. And it needs to be covered a lot for people that don't experience it to really feel it. That's why the George Floyd video moved the needle, because people are like there's a lot of good people that just don't believe things.
Absolutely.
But that video, if you don't believe that video, then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
So I think that was the thing that moved people. And I keep using my wife as an example. My wife never experienced racism, from Wyoming, blonde hair, blue eyes, beautiful lady, nicest person you'll ever meet. but she never had to deal with racism. And one story I remember, this happened like a year ago. They were my wife, my son, her parents were standing outside a restaurant, and I was coming around to pick them up. But right before I got there, there's a cop behind me that put on lights, and I saw my wife and her mom. I saw him kind of giggling over there. The cop went around me. I was just in his way, so he didn't pull me over. So, but when we get home, this is how uneducated they were, but now they're educated. When we get home, my wife goes, "Oh my God, it was so funny that I bet you thought that cop was going to pull you over." I go, "No, what I thought was, I hope I get to see my family again." So they just don't think about things like that. Like literally when that cop lights went on, okay, put my hands out there, put them out the window, make sure there's nothing, I want to make sure there's nothing that he could take for a gun, which I don't have, but I want to make sure my phone is in plain sight, my wallet's there. All this is going through my head in just the 5 seconds the car was behind me. My wife and her mom think it's funny, because they don't know. They just think, oh, a cop's going to pull you over. And in my mind, I'm like, I hope I see my son again. Okay, my family's right there. I can say, I'm going through this in my head. I can say, sir, my family's right over there. I was just coming around to pick them up. All this is going through my head. Yeah. But to them, it's, oh, this is funny. I bet you thought you were going to get pulled over by a cop. But once I educate
your reality.
Yeah, like once I educate, I'm like, oh, I don't know. I never thought about it that way. And that's the thing about education. You just have to get people that don't experience these things to understand. And you don't accomplish that by yelling at them. You don't accomplish that by blaming them. You accomplish that by real conversations. And once I broke it down to my wife like that, they totally got it. It's like, oh, okay. And my wife sees it firsthand now since we have a multiracial son. She goes, she's more woke than me now. She's like, they're doing this, because it's never personally affected her. So if it never personally affects you, you don't really worry about it. White community wasn't worried when, Dave Chappelle talked about it. White community wasn't worried about crack when it was in the black neighborhoods. But guess what? Now opioids are in the white neighborhood. Now they're going through their thing, and I would feel like a lot of black people don't care about that because it's not in their community. So racism is a thing where we just need to be on the same page and understand it. So when I see people go, all lives matter, of course they do. That's dumb. That's like
conversation's about.
That's not what it's about. Chris D'Elia had a funny video. He goes, when people say all lives matter, I say bacon. Because it has nothing to do with it.
It's great. It was so good. But that's the thing for me. Like I'm just like your wife. Like I had never and have never experienced it. And my husband is white and my daughter's white. I mean, we don't experience that. And so I think for myself, when I have people coming into my DMs who are angry and saying some crazy stuff, all I can think is this. If this is all that I have to put up with, this little inconvenience to be able to talk about these things, doesn't matter if I get those negative DMs. Like it's about the bigger picture, and it's about educating too. Like, yeah, sometimes I get DMs and they're crazy, but sometimes I get DMs and people are upset, but then we're able to have a conversation. And like you said, it's a lot of people who just, it hasn't personally affected them, so they haven't cared about it at all. And it's like, okay, let's take a minute to step outside of ourselves as white people with our white privilege and have this conversation.
Yeah, to make it very simple, if the coronavirus would have stayed in Wuhan, China, or wherever it started and never came to America, people would not have cared because it wasn't in our system. It wasn't in our world, our little bubble we're in. Yeah. So now I'm glad everybody's getting educated and learning more about it. And I was really happy to see how you embrace it. And that meant a lot to me, I see a lot of black comedians saying their white friends are reaching out to them, saying they love them. But since I'm only black, no white people have reached out to me. I don't know what's up with that. Come on, white people.
I'm reaching out to you now.
Thank you. But see, all my black comic friends, they're like, man, so many white people reached out to me, tell me they love me. And I go, yeah, I guess since I'm
Oh
only
my
half black,
God.
since I'm
Everyone
only half
listening,
black,
please reach out to Michael.
all my white
I'm
friends,
sending you a text right now, and I'm gonna just send it to you while we're
I
on.
love you. I'm only half black and I'm not getting the love.
Oh, no.
Half black matters, lives matter too. Come on now. Come on. So what do you got going on now? What are y'all talking about now on your Chatty Broads podcast?
So, I mean, we were going to be talking about The Bachelor, but a lot of it has come to a pause because of coronavirus. Apparently, they're supposed to be starting to film again, like this month or in July, for The Bachelorette to come out in September. But right now, The Bachelor is dropping episodes called The Bachelor Greatest of All Time, and it's basically one season in a 3-hour episode every Monday.
Ugh.
So, which it's so long, it's so lengthy. But we've talked about that we're probably going to be recapping that. We were supposed to recap it yesterday. We decided to talk more about what's going on in the world
Okay,
instead.
good for
So,
you.
I think we're right now we're just going to continue to do both. But for the next few weeks, we're only going to have one episode because my co-host is going to have a baby any day. So we're
Look
taking
at
a little
that.
bit of a breather. Yeah.
All right. Well, if you need somebody to fill in for it, just let me know. All right.
Oh, I'll be calling you for sure.
All right. Jess, thank you so much. How can people
Thank
find you?
you. Well, the podcast is Chatty Broads. It's, on Apple, Spotify, all the platforms. And then my personal Instagram is at the bad mom with 2 D's because,
Because you're bad
because I'm bad.
mom. I'm the bad mom.
Because the other one was taken and
There
she
you
wanted
go.
and she wanted too much money for it. Okay.
All right, the bad mom. Thank you for being on the pod. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Love
All
you
right,
so
well,
much, Michael.
I love you. Thank you. Thank you. I love you too. Tell your husband hi, okay?
I will.
And your daughter's a superstar. Just throwing it out there.
She is going to do much greater things than I have ever done, that's for sure.
All right, have a good one, okay?
All right, bye.
Bye. All right, here's the deal, guys. That was the podcast. Make sure you subscribe, rate it, listen, leave the comments. Also, my special Blasian. You can watch it for free at michaelyo.com. I'll see you next time.
Michael Yo Show.